Imagine waking up one morning to find 200 women in the street, silent, standing like a wall. No slogans, no weeping, no protests. Each one of them holding something. A knife, a stone, or a bag of chili powder. Not because there is a demonstration, and not because there is a funeral, but because they are going to kill one man, to slaughter him in a broad daylight, in front of everyone and inside the courtroom itself. But the strange part isn't the crime, it's that the victim deserved to die. That man, he wasn't human. He was a monster who fed on pain. He raped, stole, mutilated, killed, and with every crime, the police turned a blind eye, and society swallowed its voice. But when the number of his victims exceeded 40, there was no longer any excuse for silence. So what happened, and how did things escalate to this bloody scene? Grab your favorite drink, my friend. Let's go down to Crypt 13. India, 1991, a hot summer night. A poor young man sits with his fiancée in a small room, dreaming of a simple future. The door suddenly swings open. A man walks in, carrying a weapon. His face shows nothing. No anger, no pity, just a deadly emptiness. His name is Aku. He yelled at the young man, "Don't move." He stole everything in the house, then turned to the girl. Her fiancé screamed, begged, but no one was listening. Aku raped her right in front of him. He was done, and he left. And the young man, he ran to the police trembling. And here the farce begins. The police arrested Aku, a rare moment of joy. People thought justice had finally arrived. But just days later, he was released. Why? Because the victim was from the Dalit caste. And before you ask who the Dalits are, stay with me and you'll understand everything. Aku lived in jail like an honored guest. Hot meals, friends among the guards, unrestricted visits. And him, he smiled. In his eyes, what happened wasn't even worth regretting. On the contrary, that was the real birth moment of the monster. From that point on, Aku started acting like a god. But how was this nightmare born? Before he was known as the monster, he was just a child. His real name, Bharat Keltichan. Born in 1972 in Kasturba Nagar neighborhood, one of the poorest in India, into a very large family, 6 boys, 6 girls. His father, the richest man in the neighborhood, owned livestock and a land, and a single word from him was enough to silence the police. Money was there, power was inherited, and the people, they walked on tiptoes when his family passed by. But Bharat, or Aku as they started calling him, was far from any ordinary child. Smart, top of his class, loved helping people. Some neighbors say he was well liked. He could have become a doctor or an engineer. But inside him, there was something dark. Something that made him laugh while torturing a cat, and smile at the sight of blood. He might have been a psychopath or a narcissist. He wasn't interested in studying. He was interested in control. He'd break his little sister's toy and laugh. He'd steal his brother's allowance and say, "I deserve more." And over time, he got bored with a clean life. He started stealing from the poor, even though he didn't need to. Why? Because theft wasn't the goal. Humiliation was the pleasure. His father looked the other way. The people stayed silent out of fear for the family. Then suddenly, his father died. Everything fell apart. His brothers started fighting over the inheritance. The daughters got married and faded from the picture. The house turned into a den of chaos. As for Aku, he officially became a gang leader. He carried a weapon, built a network of beggars and homeless kids, and started extorting protection money from everyone in the neighborhood. The vegetable seller pays up. The milkman pays up. Even the widow selling tea on the street corner has to pay. If you don't pay, you get beaten, your wife gets harassed, and one of your kids gets kidnapped, and everyone stays silent because Aku wasn't just a thug anymore. He became his own system. Wait a second, who are the Dalits and why did he specifically target them? Here we need to pause for a moment and understand the backdrop this devil exploited. Listen up, my friend. India is an incredibly complex country, a society with a strict caste system thousands of years old. At the top, priests, nobles, warriors, business owners. In the middle, workers and farmers. And at the very bottom, the outcasts. Their name, Dalits. And the literal meaning of the word, the trampled underfoot. Merely touching one of them was considered unclean. They weren't allowed to enter temples. They couldn't get an education. They couldn't inherit. They owned nothing. Their jobs, collecting trash, cleaning toilets, handling dead bodies. And most importantly, they were outside the system. Meaning, any crime against them wasn't considered a crime. And this is where Aku entered the game. Why risk attacking the rich? Why get into trouble with the police when he had open season on a group called the Dalits? He walked among their homes like a god of wrath. Every morning, a woman named Layla would sit in front of her house, selling tomatoes and onions to survive. He'd pass by her daily, slap her, steal from her, and spit on her produce. One day, he took a truck, loaded all her goods, and dumped them in the river. She went home without even a single potato to her name. But Aku wasn't satisfied. He began to enjoy seeing the brokenness in the eyes of the poor. The more they cried, the more powerful he felt. Hell begins after that first rape, and after he walked out of jail as if nothing had happened. Everything about Aku changed. It was as if a monster inside him had woken up and finally knew its way. He no longer cared about theft or about extortion money. Only one thing could quench his thirst now: fear. He began kidnapping women from the streets, from their homes, right out of the hands of their husbands. Without shame, without cover, and without the slightest fear. In broad daylight, he'd stop a cart carrying a mother and her daughter, threaten them with a weapon, take the girl and walk away. And the mother, she'd scream. But no one would come near, because everyone knew that if Aku got angry, he'd burn the house down with everyone inside. Age didn't matter. Marital status didn't matter. If they were Dalits, they were all targets. His youngest victim was a girl, only 9 years old. And since the law was in a deep sleep, the neighborhood began devising its own ways to survive. They had a code word. If you saw Aku in the street, you'd whisper a specific word or make a subtle signal that everyone understood that danger was coming. Women would hide in any house they could. Children were pulled out of school early. And the men, they were powerless. Kasturba Nagar wasn't a neighborhood anymore. It had become one big prison cell, and its guard a single criminal. Every report filed against Aku was tossed in the trash. In fact, the police would sometimes leak the names of those who filed complaints to him. And after that, the retaliation would begin. One woman would disappear. Another would be found hanged. Another would return home unconscious. And at a certain point, the number of victims surpassed for a woman. The schools emptied out. The roads became deserts after sunset. And the people, they lived as if in a war zone. Many women chose to have abortions on purpose, just so they wouldn't have a daughter. Their daughters had become a future victim in the making. Aku drank this fear as if it were the elixir of life. But in the deepest darkness, a small light appeared. Her name, Ashab Hagat. A strong woman, she had a loud voice and unbreakable spirit. She was the only one who would look Aku in the eye without fear. One day, when she saw him harassing a woman in the neighborhood, she came out with a knife and said, "Touch her and I'll slaughter you." He stood there, stunned. Aku, who made hundreds bow to his terror, couldn't understand. Who is this woman who isn't afraid of me? He started watching her, wondering, where did did she get this courage? But Asha wasn't alone. A man named Avinash, respected, well-liked and strong, also decided to say enough. And he knew Aku personally. Coordinating with Asha, they gathered the men of the neighborhood and ambushed Aku in an alley. They beat him until his ribs broke. He almost died. But who saved him? Avinash himself, and don't ask why. Because what happened next explains it all. He donated blood for him, got him to the hospital, and said, I won't let a man die, even if he's my enemy. But Aku doesn't understand nobility. When he recovered, he began to suspect there was something between Asha and Avinash. And in a moment of hysterical rage, he confronted him saying, it's either me or her. Avinash tried to calm him down. Have you forgotten my blood runs in your veins? But Aku, he made up his mind. He stabbed Avinash in front of everyone and left him to bleed to death. Then he turned to Asha and said, you're next. After the murder, Aku spent only short time in prison. And when he got out, his twisted mind was already plotting revenge on Asha. In 1999, one night, Aku gathered his gang and marched to Asha's house. One of them knocked on the door, pretending to be her son's friend, asking for a glass of water. Out of kindness, Asha opened the door. But before she could understand what was happening, they attacked her with brutal force, beating her savagely. That even a strong man wouldn't have survived it. And as if that wasn't enough, they beheaded her, cut off her nose and ears, mutilated her body, and then fled. When people discovered the crime and saw the horror, they screamed for the police. Soon after, Aku was arrested. But justice, it barely touched him. He was sentenced to just a short prison term, as if her life meant nothing. Once out, Aku went straight back to his sick plans, this time targeting Asha's daughter. He stalked her, broke into her house, stole her jewelry, assaulted her, cut off her ears and fingers, and finally dumped her body on the train tracks. But Aku's violence didn't stop. By 2004, another woman crossed his path, Yusha, a hotel worker. One evening, Aku tried harassing her like he always did with women, but she ignored him and walked away. That night though, Aku and his gang came back to her neighborhood, and in the same night, he attacked a 13-year-old girl. Yusha grabbed the terrified child and rushed to the police. But what did they do? They dismissed it. They even blamed the child, saying she was the one who tempted him. Can you believe it? A 13-year-old girl tempted this monster. The corruption was sickening. When Aku learned that Yusha tried to report him, he lost control. He gathered his gang and stormed her house, armed and ready to kill. But Yusha wasn't ordinary. She grabbed a gas cylinder, opened it, and shouted, if I die tonight, I'm taking you with me. That moment froze the gang. They panicked, stumbled back, and fled for now. Yusha's scream reached the neighbors, and for the first time, the entire community rose together. Men and women with sticks, stones, anything they could grab. They stood face to face against Aku's gang. The gang ran, but the fear was broken. For 3 whole days, they searched for him, but he was nowhere to be found. Then on August 4, 2004, the community gathered all the journalists themselves and held a press conference telling the world what they had lived through. And yet, once again, the police denied everything, dismissing the people as attention seekers. Think about it, this man had been in and out of prison 14 times, dozens of testimonies against him. Yet, no one in authority believed the victims. The corruption ran so deep. Journalists threw the testimonies in the trash. Not a single article was published. The community had lost all hope. And so, they decided they would take justice into their own hands. And the planning began, not just to kill Aku, but for a revolution. They sent secret messages to every woman who had been wronged. They didn't say, come, let's kill. They said, come and take your rights into your own hands. The state had sold us out. The police had betrayed us, and the law is dead. We have nothing left to lose. On August 6, the townspeople gathered and marched straight to Akku's house. They surrounded it, tore it apart, smashed everything inside. Akku watched from a distance, realizing his end was near. He panicked, fled the area. But instead of hiding, he turned himself into the police, confident the corrupt system would protect him once again. But the community had enough. They knew what he was planning. They weren't gonna wait for justice anymore. By August 13, word spread. Akku was being transferred to court. That morning, hundreds of women gathered outside, armed with knives, stones, and chili powder, united by one mission: revenge. When Akku arrived, chained to another prisoner, he froze. In front of him stood over 200 women waiting. For the first time, real fear showed on his face. Yet, surrounded by the crooked police, he smirked, turned to a woman staring at him and said, "When I got out, I will come for you." That was the last sentence he ever spoke. Suddenly, the woman lunged at him, hitting, clawing, striking with raw fury. Akku screamed, stumbled, tried to escape. The police backed away in fear, dragging him inside the courthouse. But inside, another group of women was already waiting. The moment they saw him, chili powder was hurled straight into his face. He broke free from the guards, dragging the other prisoner with him, and ran, desperate, blinded, until he locked himself inside a small room. It didn't matter. The women smashed the doors down. Some of them blocked the police from entering, while the others stormed in, knives in hand. And then they stabbed him again and again, until his blood poured across the floor. This wasn't an attack. It was a collective hemorrhage of rage. One woman cut off his ear, another slit his stomach, a third stabbed his eye, a fourth stabbed his heart, and a fifth cut off his genitals and threw them into the courtroom. 73 stab wounds, a corpse without features, a face beyond recognition, and scattered body parts. After the crime, by the time the police arrived, the body was cold. They asked, "Who killed him?" The answer was clear, loud, and unified: all of us. Not one woman ran, not one denied it. The woman stood in the middle of the street and repeated, "We are the ones who killed him. We did it, no one else." The police couldn't arrest anyone. The women left the courtroom quietly. Each one wiped her knife, tucked away her bag, and walked off as if nothing had happened. But the truth, blood was still dripping from the walls. The media, they wanted a sensational story, but they didn't know what to write. 200 women slaughter a man inside a courthouse. That's unacceptable, especially when the victim is from a higher caste and the killers from the untouchables. The government started looking for a scapegoat. 5 women were arrested, but the whole neighborhood mobilized. They stood in front of the police station and said, "If you don't release them, take all of us." Then the chants rose, "We all killed him. We all beat him. We all executed him." The authorities were at a loss. How do you deal with 200 women? More than that, how do you put an entire neighborhood on trial? In the media, absurd narratives emerged. Men disguised as women, an unjustified riot. The victims suffered from mental disorders. But behind these lies were hidden files. Police reports intentionally lost. Officers who were friends with Akku. Investigations that were never opened. People stopped believing anyone, not even the court. And in the end, some women were sentenced to prison. One got 10 years. Another died before she could leave her cell. As for the rest, they were released later due to lack of evidence. Lack of evidence. There were 200 witnesses and 200 confessions. But the system didn't want to admit that justice had been served by the untouchable caste. The story of Akku didn't end with his death. It began the moment he fell. After that, people started asking bigger questions. How many Akkus are living among us now, protected by the law? How many women are still silent because their screams find no ears to listen? How many innocents are waiting for justice in courts that know no mercy? And most importantly, is there a moment in a person's life when a knife becomes more just than the law? This story is not a call for violence, but it's a reminder that when justice remains silent for too long, anger speaks in another tongue. And when the criminal becomes untouchable, the victim becomes the law. And you, my friend, if you were in their place, your daughter is raped, your wife is humiliated, and the police just laugh. Would you wait? Sometimes justice doesn't come down from the court. Sometimes justice can come from a knife. And that was today's video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.